He missed the mark, and everything became uncomfortable. A true tale of betrayal. Welcome to Adultery Anonymous. Join us now. Subscribe and show your love with a thumbs up. In a heartbeat, we discover the flame that fuels our yearning to craft even more stories. Show your appreciation for this video. Now, let's dive into the story. I never thought I would face this kind of situation. In a small town, I grew up dreaming of a life brimming with simplicity and joy. In the vibrant days of our youth, I promised my heart to Ben, my college love, a bond ignited by our dreams and hopes. Our few possessions mattered little, the bond we shared was a priceless treasure. Enough to fill our hearts. I thought that was the case. Looking back, the signs of what was to come are painfully obvious now. In that instant, it was beyond my comprehension. As we stepped into the charming little house we had rented, I met Mr. Whitaker, our landlord. The place may have been humble, but it was where we truly belonged. It radiated warmth, a garden full of charm, and a backyard that stole my heart. Ben and I were electrified, stepping into this new chapter together. Mr. Whitaker was an older man, just stepping into his 60s. His face glowed with warmth, a smile always lighting up our meetings. He was the kind of landlord who would show up unannounced, checking if everything was all right with the house. The memory clings tightly to that first visit. When he came to fix the broken fence, he was unfailingly polite, asking if we needed anything, and effortlessly sparking conversations about the neighborhood's changes over the years. In that moment, it hardly registered at all. He was just a kind, older man. Slowly, the tides turned. As Ben's work kept him away more often, I found myself alone in the silent house, grappling with the weight of solitude. In those fleeting moments, I began to see Mr. Whitaker in a startlingly different light. He arrived unannounced more often, sometimes to scrutinize the house, other times just to talk. At first, it seemed harmless. In the end, he was our landlord. As the days passed, I felt a quiet shift in the pulse of our conversations. On a quiet afternoon, while I nurtured my garden, Mr. Whitaker appeared out of nowhere. His visits became more frequent, and though I welcomed him, an unsettling feeling clung to each arrival, refusing to let go. His kindness enveloped me, but the intensity in his gaze ignited a deep unease within. That afternoon, he stayed far longer than usual. We drifted from the weather to the garden, then plunged deep into the very essence of life. In those brief seconds, I sensed a captivating intensity in his presence. "Is there happiness here for you?" His question pierced the air, his eyes locking onto mine, igniting a raw vulnerability inside me. My answer hung in the air, heavy with doubt. With Ben, joy flickered, but an unsettling distance loomed, deepened by his long hours at the office. Solitude wrapped around me. Even with him nearby, I hesitated to share that truth with Mr. Whitaker. Not where he could hear. I smiled and nodded, trying to brush it off. But Mr. Whitaker wouldn't let it go. He noted how easy it is to miss the power of a confidant. The raw feeling of being truly heard. Words slipped away, but his voice pierced me, sending a chill deep within. His words lingered, haunting the silence long after he was gone. I brushed it off, telling myself it was just a fleeting moment. As Mr. Whitaker came around more often, I noticed subtle shifts in his behavior. His compliments, once playful, now carried a weight I wasn't ready for. He commented on my looks, acknowledging the care I took with myself and the precise attention I devoted to the house. At first, I saw his actions as simple kindness, but soon it was clear he noticed what others missed. One evening, Ben was nowhere to be found, lost in the whirlwind of a business trip. On a quiet evening, I sat on the couch, lost in a book, when the doorbell rang, shattering the stillness. Stunned by the sudden arrival, I hesitated, caught off guard before I could reply. I swung the door open, and there stood Mr. Whitaker, his smile radiant. "Less than text. I just happened to be nearby," he said, his voice low, "so I thought I'd stop by and see if you were all right." I smiled politely, stepping back to let him in. His surprise visits were now a habit, barely registering in my mind. He stepped into the living room, and our conversation ignited, just like every time before. An unusual tension crackled in the air. His gaze pierced through me, sending a chill racing down my spine. A single glance, a lingering stare, ignited my heart into a wild frenzy. In our conversation, Mr. Whitaker drew closer, breaking the usual distance between us. The gap between us closed, and his presence became a palpable force, electrifying the air. I remember laughing nervously at his words, trying to shake off the growing dread in my shoulder. I told myself his actions were just friendly, convincing myself my feelings were overblown. Mr. Whitaker leaned in, his hand brushing the arm of the couch, sensing my unease. "It's rare," he said, "to find someone like you, someone who truly listens, who genuinely cares." The words seemed innocent, but his tone held an unsettling edge, a chilling inflection that sent shivers racing down my spine. I longed to pull away, to voice my unease, but silence held me captive. I laughed nervously, pulling my legs to my shoulder, trying to create a barrier between us, even if it was just a physical one. Mr. Whitaker noticed my shift, and for an instant, a silent tension crackled between us. His gaze held mine, soft yet charged with an intensity that was impossible to ignore. "I never wanted to unsettle you," he murmured, his voice trembling. "Your gratitude means everything, Emma. Your essence is truly one of a kind." His voice, when it spoke my name, stole my breath away. My heart pounded, silencing my thoughts. I longed to speak, to break the heavy silence, but the right words slipped away from me. In that moment, I was caught, frozen by the crushing weight of time. Before I could speak, Mr. Whitaker stood up. His smile flickered back, and he said, "I guess I should let you have your evening." Yet, an oddity clung to the smile, a haunting quality that slipped through my grasp. "I've been thinking about you. How are you holding up?" I nodded, throat dry, watching him leave the house. When the door clicked shut, I exhaled a breath I didn't know I was holding. I sat still, eyes locked on the door, as time stretched endlessly, wrestling with the chaos that had just erupted. For the first time, I was engulfed by a storm of deep, unsettling emotions. A piece of me longed to share my turmoil with Ben, but shame held me captive, paralyzed by the fear of his judgment. I never meant to stir up trouble. I feared igniting doubt in his mind or, worse, unleashing his fury. As I reflected deeper, it hit me hard. I could no longer ignore the emotions Mr. Whitaker ignited in me. It was unsettling, and I wanted nothing to do with it. An unsettling intuition lingered, hinting at hidden truths he dared not share. What was I supposed to become? Mr. Whitaker's visits became a haunting routine, each day heavier than the last. Each visit brought a rush of discomfort and unease, a haunting reminder that lingered in the air. I tried to push it away, but it became impossible to ignore. He had a mysterious allure that quickened my pulse, leaving me bewildered by its source. I grasped the need for caution, knowing I couldn't let things slip away from me. Beneath the surface, a transformation was quietly unfolding. I had no idea the depths would be so profound. Days turned to weeks, and the tension with Mr. Whitaker grew unbearable. I still hadn't told Ben about the strange encounters I'd had with our landlord. A piece of me quaked at the fear he might misinterpret my intentions or, worse, react with fury and disillusionment. In the end, all I wanted was to reach out. Wasn't I? It felt like a fleeting exchange, yet it held a weight that lingered in the air. "Is that all there is?" I chanted that mantra each time Mr. Whitaker appeared unannounced, trying to push away the growing dread within me. The discomfort loomed, an inescapable weight I could no longer ignore. Mr. Whitaker's image haunted me, especially the intensity of his gaze and the fleeting presence of his fingers on the couch's armrest during that unforgettable visit. He reached out, striving to create a connection that shattered the limits of mere neighborly ties. I kept circling back to that moment, each memory tightening the knot in my shoulder. On a quiet Tuesday evening, I stood alone in the kitchen, slicing vegetables for dinner, lost in thought. Cooking, once my joy, now felt like a heavy weight, stripping away the comfort it once brought. My thoughts drifted to far-off places, a haunting feeling clawing at me, as if the very air crackled with the threat of transformation. The moment I sprinkled the spices on the chicken, the doorbell rang, slicing through the silence. My heart raced wildly within me. Through the kitchen window, I caught sight of Mr. Whitaker at the door, his warm smile igniting a rush of memories. Days had passed since I last saw him, and instead of relief, a tight knot twisted in my stomach. I wiped my hands, took a deep breath, and stepped toward the door. "Good evening, Emma," Mr. Whitaker said, his voice bright as I opened the door. "I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Absolutely not," I replied, forcing a smile that barely masked my turmoil. I stepped aside, allowing him in. He crossed the threshold effortlessly, as if it were the most mundane thing in the world. He glanced around, his eyes briefly landing on the kitchen where I was lost in the rhythm of dinner preparations. The aroma enveloped us, his gaze fixed on the meal I was crafting. I nodded in response, uncertainty swirling within me, unsure of how to express my gratitude. Just a simple dinner, yet it holds a weight that lingers. Mr. Whitaker chuckled. "You always say that, yet you have a gift for transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary." The compliment felt nice, but it held a deeper significance coming from him. It felt different from the compliments I'd heard before, even those from Ben. His gaze was heavy, as if he saw something in me that went beyond the basic needs of life. A surge of dread gripped me again, but I fought to push it away. "Thanks," I said, brushing it aside with a flick of my wrist. "Do you need anything? Less than text. Are you here to ask something important?" Mr. Whitaker's expression shifted, revealing a depth of emotion. He hesitated, a fleeting moment before he spoke. "I wanted to talk, just for a moment. It's been a while since we truly connected." To my shock, our meetings were always polite, but we never dared to dive deeper. I sensed him nearby often, but I never expected him to seek a deeper connection. Anxiety surged within me, but I nodded anyway. "Absolutely. Let's pause and share this moment together." I led him into the living room, a slight nod toward the couch urging him to settle in. There I sat, facing him, in that familiar chair where Ben and I shared countless evenings lost in our television rituals. A heavy silence filled the room until Mr. Whitaker shattered it, his voice laced with an unfamiliar gravity that sent chills down my spine. He began slowly, but the tension built with every step. "I've been lost in thought about life and the relentless changes it brings. Daily life can trap us, blurring the lines of what truly matters." Uncertainty hung heavy as I wrestled with the path he was choosing. "Less than text. I see where you're coming from," I said, weighing each word. "In the chaos of existence, finding what truly matters can feel nearly impossible." Mr. Whitaker tilted his head, his eyes piercing into mine. "Exactly. Yet, we must stop and truly feel, making sure we live fully instead of just going through the motions." His words hung heavy in the air, rendering me speechless. His insinuation hung heavy in the air, and doubt gripped my heart, making me hesitate to seek the truth. "Emma," he whispered, leaning in just enough to bridge the distance between them. "From our first encounter, an unbreakable bond formed, a connection that haunts my mind. I've replayed our conversations in my mind, captivated by the way you reveal yourself. Your essence is indescribable, and my admiration for you is profound." A sharp constriction seized my throat, stealing my breath away. His words held a soft glow, but they struck deep with the force of truth. His words struck me like lightning, a shock that twisted my heart in ways I never wanted to feel. A crushing wave of entrapment engulfed me, paralyzing my thoughts and blurring my next step. Thoughts raced, desperate for the right words to cut through the suffocating tension hanging in the air. I can't find the words," I whispered, my voice trembling on the edge of silence. "Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Whitaker. However, I must clarify that I am happily married. I hold my husband close, my heart entwined with his in a bond I treasure fiercely." He seemed completely unaffected by my words. He lounged in his chair, eyes locked on me for a fleeting second, his expression unreadable. "I get it," he whispered, regret heavy in his voice. "Emma, I want to spare you pain, but I can't silence the feelings that consume me." His words struck me like lightning, igniting every nerve with raw intensity. His admiration echoed in my ears, but this moment was unlike any other. His gaze held a profound intensity, whispering untold stories. A wave of terror and uncertainty crashed into me. This had crossed into something far deeper than a simple landlord's question. It transformed into a labyrinth, one I felt utterly unprepared to traverse. "I won't create discord between you and your husband," Mr. Whitaker said, his voice unwavering. I can't pretend to be indifferent to the magnetic pull you have on me any longer. I needed to share my heart with you. Words slipped away. I opened my mouth, but silence swallowed my voice. I was caught in a fragile moment, battling the urge to shield him while fearing the weight of false hopes. What path was I destined to follow in this turmoil? How'd I tell him I'm married and have no interest in anything beyond my life with Ben? Finally, I took a deep breath, my heart pounding fiercely in my shoulder. Mr. Whitaker, I said firmly, I value your honesty, but I must be clear with you. Bound by love, I am wholly devoted to my husband. Your kindness means a lot. But I need to be clear, my interest is strictly as a landlord and tenant. A heavy silence lingered, and I caught the flicker of disappointment in his gaze. He looked at his hands, then nodded slowly, each movement heavy with meaning. I get it, he whispered, his voice heavy with emotion. Less than text, I'm sorry if I hurt you. I never intended for this to happen. I nodded, relief crashing over me like a tide. The tension faded, but a haunting unease lingered. An unshakable weight hung in the air. A haunting truth. Nothing would ever be the same. Mr. Whitaker's feelings for me would endure, no matter how hard I tried to face them. He stood, and I followed suit. Thank you for listening, he murmured, his voice soft but laced with sorrow. I bid you good evening, and now I must go. Your boundaries matter to me, Emma. I respect them deeply. I long to share my deepest emotions with you. I forced a smile, hiding the storm raging inside. Thank you, Mr. Whitaker. I can't wait to see you again. He stepped through the door, and I stood frozen, staring into the emptiness he had abandoned. A storm of thoughts raged inside me. The events that just unfolded were utterly incomprehensible. Married to Ben, yet drawn into a conversation with our landlord. Tension crackled in the air. What was unfolding, and why did it feel like my entire life was unraveling before my eyes? I shook my head, fighting against the doubts that clung to me. I had to focus on my life with Ben, to remember the love and devotion we once shared. A haunting whisper stirred inside me, hinting that this was just the dawn of something far greater. After speaking with Mr. Whitaker, I tried to push the whole situation from my mind. I was resolute in preserving my bond with Ben, unwilling to invite further turmoil with our landlord. Still, no matter how hard I tried to hide them, my emotions clung on, relentless and unyielding. Guilt and confusion clung to me, trapping me in a relentless cycle of doubt about what had just happened. Days passed, and then Mr. Whitaker returned, unannounced. A jolt of fear seized my heart as the doorbell shattered the stillness. Despite my unease, I knew I had to face the uncomfortable conversation head-on. I swung the door wide, fighting to keep my composure. Hello, Emma, he welcomed me, his voice warm yet controlled. I just need to check that everything is still okay with the house. I tilted my head, forcing a smile. Everything is fine, Mr. Whitaker. Your inquiry means a lot to me. He hesitated, a fleeting moment of silence hanging in the air before he moved on. My past words haunt me, echoing in the silence. I never meant to hurt you. Your boundaries are clear, and I respect them deeply. I had to share what weighed on my heart. I stared at him, feeling the weight of his words hang in the air. I had to stand my ground now. Here, uncertainty was an unwelcome shadow. Thank you for your understanding, I replied. I must be clear. I am bound in marriage. My heart is fully committed to Ben. No distractions can come between us. Our professional bond is valued. But it ends there. Mr. Whitaker's expression softened, but a shadow of sorrow remained in his eyes. He tilted his head slowly, absorbing my words without a sound. I get it, he whispered gently. I'm sorry if I overstepped. Relief surged through me as I took a deep breath. Everything is okay. I just want to ensure we're on the same page. With a subtle nod of respect, he turned and walked away. He turned to leave, and I stood in the doorway, watching him go, a storm of feelings raging inside me. A pang of sorrow settled in my heart, recognizing the weight of this moment. But gratitude surged for the boundaries I had finally claimed. As dusk fell, Ben and I sat at the dinner table, and in that instant, a deep sense of presence washed over me, something I had long been missing. The recent events weighed on my mind, but I knew I had to move forward. I was captivated by the core of what truly mattered. My family, my steadfast devotion to Ben, and the deep love that united us. Is everything okay? Ben asked. Noticing my unusual quietness, I forced a smile, trying to shake off the relentless thoughts that haunted me. Truly, engulfed in deep thought, your return fills my heart with joy. He smiled back, his hand clasping mine with a tender intensity. Home wraps around you like a soft, familiar blanket, igniting a deep sense of belonging. In that moment, I realized that amid the turmoil of emotions, my clarity was strikingly sharp. I had to protect the connection I had with Ben. Nothing would stand in our way. Together, we would face whatever came, unyielding and united.